Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Another quick game of Interplanetary I Spy going on here, and we're back to InSight, the recent mission that landed on Mars only a few weeks ago. It's now taken 295 images. Most of them are pretty poor, I would say. For some unknown reason, they've left the dust cap on one of the camera lenses, so you have images that are covered in these particles all over the lens cover. Which is rather stupid. I don't know why that is. I remember when it landed, as I was watching the coverage, the rather strange coverage that they had, they were interviewing some of the NASA experts, and they said, "Oh, we'll take off the dust cap after after the dust has settled. You know, about 20 minutes or a couple of hours after it landed." But they haven't taken it off, which I find very strange indeed. I don't know why that is. So a lot of the images, as I'll show you in a minute, are covered in these blobs, which are all over the lens cover. So they really haven't improved at all. But at least we do have the arm cam, or the IDC, the instrument deployment camera. Now this is on the arm, which reaches out and has deployed the listening device and other things in front of the lander. I'll show you that as well in a minute. This is the image. So I can't give you an individual link to this image because they won't link to it individually. So I'll give you the link to the page here, and all you have to do is scroll down to here, second row, and it's this one with the arm in between these two, okay? So that's the one you want. Let's get on with it. Right, let's have a look. We've got it up here. All I've done with this image is enlarge it. I have not enhanced it or changed any of the details in it whatsoever. Okay? And before we start, I would like to mention that I did do a video about the InSight very recently. Here it is. It was a few weeks ago, just after the InSight, only a few days after the InSight had landed, this was. And I spotted a UFO above the horizon, over to the right of the lander, or at least on the right section of the image. I'm going to show you that as well, just to show that it's not the same one, okay? And also I'm going to show you that there is also the other one in that previous video is up here. It's not a UFO at all, it's a dead pixel just there, and that appears in every image. So the black one, the black dot you see there with a sort of halo around it, which is up near the top left corner, is a dead pixel. That's in every image, but the main thing is here, and I haven't enhanced this whatsoever. This is completely raw. So what I'm going to do now is enhance it for you and see what we can drag out of it, because this is pretty cool. This is actually a lot more detailed than the previous one, and is a lot bigger. Let's change the color temperature of that. There we are. So we have the lighter section here, which is gold. Then we have a very bluish kind of section here. We've got all these weird sort of colors around it. Now, of course, the colors are exaggerated here because I've really upped the contrast, so that really pushes the colors out. In reality, it's probably not as colorful as that. So there we are. So what I will do with this, I'll do some clips of it in a minute, and I'll put them in at the end of the video for you to look at, and you can take screenshots if you like. This is a weird one. It has a sort of almost a circular halo to it, and as I said, it's got these brighter objects that seem to be near it. So this is probably a meteor that's breaking up as it's coming into the rather thin atmosphere. I would imagine that meteors don't break up so quickly on Mars as they do on Earth as they come into the atmosphere, because of course the atmosphere is very thin on Mars. They would still burn up, but they wouldn't burn up as much, and they would probably more likely land in larger pieces than they would on Earth. When you see meteor showers on Earth, things often break up way before they get near the ground. So meteors are quite rare on Earth because we have a thick, quite dense atmosphere compared to Mars, So this is why meteors are so rare and also so valuable. So if you ever see a meteor, pick it up, as long as it's not too hot. So there we are. I mean, that's the raw clip. All I've done is enlarge it. So there is some detail to be seen there. Let's go dark. Let's go really dark. Yeah, so you can see those brighter spots here. A lot more now. Let's go brighter this time. Let's go really bright. Let's push the brightness up. So you're actually losing detail when you go too far. So to me, there's a definite brighter end to it and a paler trail coming off it, like a meteor. So it's travelling in this direction from right to left, and it's probably going to hit the surface of Mars. Or I mean, it could well be something else. It's impossible to say. So there we are. Clips coming up in a minute. I'll do some proper clips of that, and I'll see what more detail can be dragged out of it. But it really is difficult when you have such low-res images from the Mars InSight, and I was wondering why that is. And a lot of people have been complaining to me and other people about the quality of these images, and I can understand why, because they are literally only 1 megapixel images. They're about 1024. These images. Here's the previous UFO object I spotted from that previous video is up here, but this is really faint and it's just above the horizon, just here, and I would say that's inconclusive. It's way too faint. What was more interesting about this one were these structures here. These look like they could be ruins coming around here, but the image quality is so poor you can't really say either way. Now, are NASA doing this deliberately to encourage speculation and conspiracy theories? Because if they were giving us good high quality 20 meg images, I mean, even mobile phones now have 20 meg cameras on them, some of them much higher, 23, 25, but even quite standard inexpensive mobile phones now have 20 meg cameras on as standard, at least 16 or 13. Is it possible they're deliberately giving us poor images so that we speculate more in order to create an interest and debate or talk about these things, possibly? Or, something I thought of, is it possible that these images are not from 3 weeks ago at all, but from 10 years ago, when digital cameras were still fairly primitive? Because what I don't get is, these images, at face value, they look okay, because in the foreground you've got detail here. As soon as you zoom in to the objects down here, it breaks up straight away. Now, that's because there aren't that many pixels in the image. Okay, there's 1024 there and 1024 down. So, I mean, there's a lot of pixels, but compared to modern cameras, this is very poor indeed. And it's almost like they've deliberately done it. Now, this is either to increase speculation, or it is possible that the images are, say, 10 or 20 meg images, and they're just downsized to this size before we get them. That's fairly likely, I would say. Or that landers and rovers that we've been getting images from were actually sent much earlier in time. Like, say, this may have been sent 5 years ago. This may have landed on Mars 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And these images are actually over 10 years old. And they give us the images exactly, say, 10 years later, on the same day of the year that they were taken, but 10 years later. Is that possible? Is it possible that they could pull off something like that? I think it is. I think it's quite possible. They've got real missions, they've got real rockets going up to Mars on a regular basis with satellites and other missions going there. And it is possible that they could have sneaked them up there much earlier without us knowing, and then completely pulled the wool over our eyes and said, well, oh, this has just landed, and shown us no actual footage of it landing, unlike with the Curiosity, which had a a camera underneath it to show. I think it was called the descent camera. The InSight didn't have any of that, so it just kind of appeared on the surface. I'm not saying it's not on Mars, but there's no footage of it coming into land or anything like that of the surface. Here's that UFO clip there from the previous video. It's pretty poor. It's just a white kind of blob really above the horizon. But what made me wonder about this one is it almost seems like there's something coming down below it, like a pole or something sticking up. And a few subscribers did mention that. So who knows about that? And it's funny how the American or the US taxpayer pays billions of dollars for these missions to Mars, and they always seem to have something wrong with the cameras on these landers and rovers. There's always dead pixels and problems and stuff like this. Now I know they're made for temperatures way below any digital camera that you've or I have got can manage. These cameras are designed to work in temperatures far below zero, because it goes at night, even near the equator on Mars, it goes down to about minus 180 degrees. So it's very cold indeed. Whereas if you use your mobile phone or camera on Earth, if it goes down to about 0 degrees, you'll find that your mobile phone camera will not work. It will freeze up, as I found out in the past. So this is partially why this is their excuse, NASA's excuse for this 1 megapixel camera, is that it's built to withstand extreme temperature changes, and I can understand that. But is it possible that the technology that they're using is really old, and that these things were built many years ago, and that the photographs that we're getting were taken years ago, and we're only getting them now? Perhaps they're kept in some sort of storage database for years before we even get them. I know the images are processed before we get them by JPL, and that goes for the other rovers as well, and landers. It's quite possible that they just hang on to them for a long time before we get them, which would kind of give us an idea of why there's such a discrepancy in the quality. Now this is one of the images taken where they put the listening device, sizemometer listening device. They've deployed it, and you can see here that there's still all these blobs of good dirt and crap on the lens cover here where they've left it on. Okay, and that light object there, that's actually a lens flare. You can see the lens flare coming across here, and you've got some smaller lens flares here and a blob there. That's typical, really, and if you can see where it's coming across, that's pretty obvious. But this is the sort of quality of images we're getting, and they're really terrible, and a lot of them are really dark, like this. But that's probably because of the way the light's reflecting into the camera, and it's causing the contrast to be thrown off. The automatic contrast settings and lighting settings are being thrown off by these reflections, perhaps. But you can see it. It's just kind of deployed this listening device out using the arm with the grapple here, and it just kind of picked it up and then moved it away from the lander, and then slowly placed it on the ground. And they've cleverly picked a very flat area to land on here. They obviously took their time choosing this landing spot. More UFOs or meteors on Mars. They have been spotted by other rovers, including the Opportunity rover and the Curiosity rover and the Spirit. So it wouldn't be the first, and I'm sure it won't be the last. So Happy New Year to you all. Thank you to all my subscribers who've come along recently, and the ones who've been around since I started more than a few years ago. Have a great time over the coming holidays if you're on holiday, and I will see you soon.